So today we'll be working in my workbook called Proving the Story of Noah's Ark. I have two books on Noah's Ark, and one is Follows the Scripture, and the other one is this book, which was a small little book of proving the story of Noah's Ark to be true and accurate as written. And so this is chapter 1 on that. So now I'm going to have to bring this down. Okay, so our first chapter is day 1, the ark itself. Okay, so here is the scriptures now that we're going to look at in detail as far as proving the story has to be true and accurate as written. Genesis 6:14, make yourself an ark of gopher wood, make rooms in the ark and cover it inside and outside with pitch, and this is how you shall make it. The length of the ark shall be 300 cubits, its width 50 cubits, and its height 30 cubits. You shall make a window for the ark, and you shall finish it to a cubit from above. Set the door of the ark in its side, and you shall make it with lower, second, and third decks. That's in Genesis 6:14 through 16. So what type of wood was the ark made out of? Gopher wood. And as we can see on the bottom in the notes, gopher wood could either be a type of wood or how the wood is seasoned. The word itself is a mystery because it does not exist anywhere else in the Bible. So we don't know for sure. Some translations translate it to cypress or another kind of wood. But it is a wood that we're not for sure what it is. What was the wood to be covered with? Pitch. Inside and out, pitch. And pitch was traditionally made from tree gum, producing an amber colored resin. It was also some of the tar pits near the Dead Sea exist, so it may be also tar pits as far as that is concerned. What is the length of the ark? 300 cubits, which is a length, and then the width is 50 cubits and its height is 30 cubits. And of course, a cubit, as I mentioned, is the length from the tip of the middle finger to the end of the elbow. And this would have been varied depending on the man. So they ended up with a standard, like Egyptian rule of 18 to 20 inches. Is there a window? Where would it be located on the ark? If there is a window, it's in the very top part of the ark. And it was important for several reasons. Obviously, if you have the window on the very top, because obviously we don't think they had any glass or anything. That way there'll be less water coming in from the top of the window. And it also allows air to flow in and out since there weren't any windows or any other way for air to change in the ark. Is there a door? Where was that located on the ark? It's on the side of the ark. And of course, that is how the animals are going to be coming into the ark. How many decks will there be? There'll be 3, first, second, and third decks. So now let's take a look at what the ark looked like. Now, obviously on the top picture here, we have an illustration in a children's book, and that would never work. Based on the proportions given in the Bible, the ship would be the lower one is the most accurate. A great place to go and the place also where a lot of what I've written is talked about is the ark that's built in Kentucky. Answers in Genesis is where I get most of my information for this book, and that is the company who made the ark in Kentucky. So what are the necessary essentials for this ark to do its job? So obviously, if we think about it, we can more clarify why some of the pictures in children's books would not be accurate. It needs to float, but it has no sails or a rudder, so it needs to be able to float without, and it doesn't have any way of steering the boat. It can't leak, obviously. It needs to handle rough waves without tipping, and we'll get to that a little bit more. It needs to house all the animals, 8 people, and food. And so it definitely has to be large in size. But it is possible, and we'll talk about that as well. It needs an engine? Probably not. I mean, we know that it did not have an engine, so it doesn't need an engine. It needs a way to steer the boat. Apparently not. There is no instructions about steerage to the boat. So obviously it's God that will steer the boat. It needs lifeboats. No, there was never any instructions to make lifeboats. So they are totally putting their lives in God's hands. And it needs a sail. No, it doesn't. It doesn't need a sail at all. God didn't instruct it to need a sail. It's just going to be on top of the waters. So are the dimensions of the ark scientifically sound? We have specific dimensions from God about this ark. Let's see if we play with those dimensions, what will happen. A world-class ship research center in Crisco, Korea, studied the biblical ark to see what would happen if the dimensions were modified. After thorough research, they could not improve on the biblical proportions. In fact, they concluded that the ark could handle waves well over 47 meters or 150 feet. I have meters in here because I initially taught this in the Philippines. So looking at the graph here, for maximum comfort, did the ark need to be taller, longer, or wider? For maximum comfort, it would have been longer, so that it wouldn't, it could have a lot of room and these things. And for maximum stability, did the ark need to be taller, longer, or wider? It would definitely need to be wider so that it wouldn't tip over at all in the waves. For maximum strength, did the ark need to be longer, taller, or wider? For the maximum strength, it would be taller, and so that it could be able to handle any waves that were hit at it. How many in meters, how high of waves can the ark handle? In meters, it's 47 meters, but it's also 150 feet. So notice that Noah's Ark is right in the center of the maximum, not so high on the comfort or the stability or the strength, but in center of all three. If the ark was built for maximum comfort, that is very long, it would have been longer than the ark, but it would have had a greater risk of breaking in half, which makes sense. When the waves were crashing, it'd have a greater risk of breaking in half. If the ark was built for maximum stability, it would have been shorter and wider, but it would have made for a very rough ride. It really would have rocked with the waves. If the ark was, and that would have been really hard on the animals, let alone the people. If the ark was built for maximum strength, it would have been narrow and tall and had a greater risk of capsizing because it would be so tall it would tip over. Noah's Ark is designed to have the best of all three: strength, stability, and comfort. So that's interesting enough. So let's look at how does the ark compare to the ships of present day? So what is the approximate size of Noah's Ark in feet? It would have been about 500 feet, roughly, on the graph there, which is about 152 meters. What two ships is it bigger than? Two ships that it's bigger than is the Santa Maria and the Wyoming ships. And what two ships is it smaller than? It's smaller than the Titanic and the Queen Mary II. So just to give an essence of size on those. Can a wooden ship actually survive rough seas at this size? Because we now build our ships out of steel, not wood, for protection in the seas. So can a wooden ship actually survive the rough seas? Few wooden ships that we are aware of ever come close to the size of Noah's Ark. Those that dismiss the story of Noah's Ark as legend insist that a wooden ship this size cannot handle rough seas, as it would break apart. However, certain aspects of this design appear in ships shown on the pottery in Mesopotamia, which is not long after the flood, and in the ancient Greek ship Thessalonikaris. And so we have two renditions of these ships shown below. So there were ships that were made out of wood soon after the flood. And That was what they used at that time. And of course, again, we don't know the strength and durability of gopher wood. Could an ancient man have built a boat that big? These are the biblical scriptures that help us answer this question. Genesis 4:22. And as for Zillah, she also bore Tubal-Cain, an instructor of every craftsman in bronze and iron. Genesis 5:32. Noah was 500 years old, and Noah begot Shem, Ham, and Japheth. Genesis 7:6. Noah was 600 years old when the flood waters went on the earth. Who was an instructor or teacher of skills in bronze and iron? That would be Tubal-Cain. If Tubal-Cain lived before Noah, would Noah probably have known these skills? It's possible. Tubal-Cain, of course, is from the Cain side of the family line, but since we know how to do these things, it's obviously that Noah would have had to learn them as well. How old was Noah when we first hear of him? It would be 500 years of age. If Noah was 600 years of age when the flood happened, what is the maximum time it may have taken to build the ark? Maximum time would have been 100 years. Now, did he take all 100 years? We don't know, but he had the ability to take 100 years. Who were the four men who definitely worked on the ark? Noah and his three sons. And we've already talked about the fact that his father and grandfather probably helped as well. And points to consider. The pyramids were built in ancient time, and we still don't know how they were made. So, we have to still keep our mind open on the building of the ark. Got a little joke here. Um, it doesn't qualify as gopher wood. Ha, ha, ha. And so another scripture another item to think of, never be afraid to try something new. Remember, amateurs built the Ark and professionals built the Titanic. Okay, so that's the end of that chapter. And I hope you enjoyed it. We'll have more on this proving the story of Noah's Ark soon.